Well, have here rifle that needs to be cleaned. It's my deer rifle. Took my first ever deer with it just a week and a half ago. It's a Marlin model 1894 45 Colt. And if you're interested, the scope is a really nice one. It's a Hawk 2.5 to 10 SF, which stands for Varmint Special Side Focus. It's got the parallax adjustment on the left. Really nice little scope. And a nice mount too. It's integral mount and rings. It's called made by a company called DNZ. It's called the Game Reaper. So it's a good stable platform. Gets the scope as low as I can possibly get it. Oh, forgot these. These they don't make anymore. They're made by a company called Kane that's now defunct, but they're called gun chaps. Protect the stock, and they also camo it up without having to just put on any sprays that I don't want. So, and they kind of deaden the sound a little too. So, nice little addition. So I'm going to show how I'd clean this briefly and how to disassemble it. Marlin was pretty clever in how they designed their lever guns to make them work easy to clean. See if I've got this where you can see it. When you do that, you can clean from the breech. That's the nice thing about their lever guns over Winchesters, where you have to basically do a detail breakdown. Use a good hollow-ground flathead screwdriver. That's what that is. And you just take it and put it in the screw right here. You open the lever halfway. You cock the hammer and then do that. And then you gauge the slot. Being careful not to mangle up the screw head. And unscrew that. That's the only screw you need to remove the lever right there. So put that in a safe place. Carefully withdraw the lever itself. It comes out as one piece right there. And you can see that the hammer is halfway back. I'll take it all the way back and extract the bolt carefully. Just keep pushing with the finger. And there's the bolt. Firing pin's integral with it as well. There's the entire bolt assembly. It's square. And the bolt face. Now the one other thing I need to get out. You can see this. It may be hard to tell, but with the bright light I try to put above, you can see down deep in the receiver is the ejector rather. So you gently engage that with your thumb and pry up on it. I mean, not thumb, but pinky is the best way, because it's really a narrow slot, especially with my big hands. And there is the ejector. Marlin's ejectors come as a two-piece unit. This piece here and then the rest. You can get a third party made by Wild West that's a single piece. It might be better. I just haven't bothered to get one yet because it seems to eject pretty well. Once in a great while I've had a problem with this thing extracting. But that may be just because it hasn't fully broken in yet. And there's the ejector, so I'll set that down. So now you have the fully opened receiver in the back and you can clean it. Which I'll do now. Starting off with standard 45 caliber bronze brush, and the rod, if you can see that, is carbon fiber. It's an outers. Just take it from the breech. Make sure it can rotate freely, and then push through. That's the first pass. And back. You never want to, when you use a bronze brush, push it halfway through then retract it. You never want to push or pull it without it being all the way through one end or the other, because if you do, that causes the bristles to dig in to the rifling, and you don't want that because the bristles will be bending back one direction. If you push the other way, it forces the bristles backwards. So it'll do two things. It'll wear out the brush prematurely, and it'll scratch your rifling over time. You know, the bronze is softer than the steel. It's picking up particles of fouling on the tips that'll slightly etch your rifling, your bore. So you never want to do that. You always want to push it all the way through and pull it all the way back through the breech until it's clear of the bore before pushing it back the opposite direction. That's the one thing about bronze brushes. Also, I do not recommend buying stainless steel brushes ever. Not really sure why gun companies, some of them make those, because those will scratch your rifling. They're much harder than bronze, oftentimes harder than your barrel steel, so you're always better off with a bronze brush. And if not bronze, then maybe a nylon. I prefer bronze, it scrubs a little better, and nylon doesn't seem to work that well, in my opinion. It might work a little better in a smooth bore, but in a rifle bore, I see no advantage. I think you're still better off with a bronze brush and a smooth bore like a shotgun. So that seems to be pretty good. Let's remove the bronze brush now and go to the jag, cleaning jag. Nothing fancy, just a Pierce point cleaning jag. It's the right caliber. I try to get as close to the right caliber as possible. Cheap cleaning cloth. It's really polyester, but I suppose when I run out of these, I'll get some better ones, maybe cotton. And I'm going to use the old standby Hoppus number 9. Actually, it's pronounced Hopis, but a lot of people pronounce it Hoppus, myself included. But anyway, it's hard to beat the old standbys. It smells pretty good. Anybody's ever smelled it? I'm trying to saturate it. Big enough bore that it... There. And just impale that on that point so it'll stay put. So, basically same old thing, except now with the jag, so I've got to be careful I don't knock it off the jag itself, the cloth. Get the breech and gently push through without rubbing the bore with the rod. You can see it. It'll be really dirty. And there's what it looks like the first pass. I didn't really intend to push it all the way through. I'm going to flip it inside out, run it through again, and run through several more. I'm just showing you this for now. Kind of awkward. There we go. Again, you want to let the rod rotate freely. Take advantage of the ball bearing swivel. This time I'm going to... There, you see how dirty that first jag is. That's really dirty. That's actually around 110, 120 shots I fired through it, which I shouldn't have done, but I didn't clean it. I just went ahead and went hunting with it after I decided it in, knowing I was going to clean it when I was done. So anyway, I'll pause for that and then I'll show you how to reassemble. I just want to show the first jag. Okay, now I'm winding it down here. I've cleaned the bore. It took me about that many patches. You can see how they get progressively cleaner down to that one, and it looks pretty good. So since I'm not going to keep this in a moist place, I have it in a gun vault that's humidity controlled. I'm just going to wipe the board dry. So I put one last, before I run one, I'm going to run one last patch dry through it, just to pick up any residual solvent and pick up any little bit of grime that might be clinging to the lands and grooves of the rifling. Just make sure I get as much as I can out. Draw it. See, the last patch just basically from the breech. I wiped it out already too. And one last thing. Oh, boy, it's hurt to sit on the floor. A little of that, rem oil. It's just basically Teflon suspension oil. don't use much. Did not make some Marlin, not that that matters, but they bought them out. Get one clean patch and use that to dab it on. You always try to use clean patches to lubricate, because you should have cleaned off as much fouling as possible in the meantime. And then you use a clean patch to apply lubrication like this, so you don't foul what you've done. And I'm just going to wipe a little bit on the inside of the receiver where the bolt bearing surfaces are. And there. The back side. Clean off the extractor a little bit. It's not very dirty, but just a little. Make sure it's nice and slick. And the bolt itself, which really isn't very dirty. I didn't really specifically clean it, and this should clean it too. Try not to lube it up too heavily. All the surfaces with just a thin layer of reb oil. If I really want to clean it heavily, I'd get the solvent out and then use a toothbrush, or maybe a bronze gun brush that's like looks like a toothbrush, but anyway. Where's the outside there? I'm going to put in the ejector rather. I don't know if you can see it, but again, it has to be facing out this way. Facing back. That's the way it's supposed to go. Yeah. There. So that's in place. And the bolt. Definitely do not want to pull the trigger with the bolt out, because it will pull. And when you do, well, I guess it won't. I thought it would. Okay. You wouldn't want to, because the hammer would fall without the bolt cushioning it. So then you just carefully insert the bolt. Bring it forward all the way. Actually, you don't want to go all the way. You want to go why the hammer doesn't go. Okay. Now for the lever. I'm going to wipe off a little bit. It's not very dirty either, so I'm just going to give it a wipe down with oil. In there like that. Got the screw. I don't think you can. It's really hard to position this so you can see it at the same time that I'm doing it. And the lever so that the screw hole lines up. Once it does, gently. It's my fault. I had a hard time getting the ejector in. I had it facing the wrong way. The spring side needs to face toward the outside of the receiver. You just make it moderately tight. It doesn't need to be very tight. Now the bolt goes all the way forward. And the hammer will too. Safety off, safety on. Half cock. That. And just wipe it down and then I'll be done. Thanks.